Today we are going to talk about food chains, trophic levels, and how to make a food chain. First of all, we'll start with what a food chain is. A food chain is a diagram that shows the flow of energy and biomass from one organism to the next. It shows the feeding relationships that occur between species in an ecosystem. A food chain usually begins with an autotroph. An autotroph is an organism that makes its own food. It does this via photosynthesis. Autotrophs are also called producers. Then these autotrophs are ate by heterotrophs. A heterotroph is an organism that eats other organisms for their food. These heterotrophs are also called consumers. Heterotrophs are divided into trophic levels that they occupy in the food chain, called the primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, and quaternary consumer. A trophic level is the position that an organism or a group of organisms in a community occupy in a food chain. Worry about taking the notes on what a food chain is, an autotroph is, or what a heterotroph is, or trophic level, because I will show them at the end of the video and you can pause the video so that you can write down the vocab. Now that we've talked about what a food chain is, we're going to discuss how to make one. In a food chain, each organism is like a link in a chain, and the links are connected by arrows that show the direction of energy and biomass flow. To make a food chain, you simply list the autotroph first, which would be the producer because it produces its own food. It would be such as a plant, and then you leave a small space, and then add the first heterotroph, which you would label as a primary consumer. Then you would leave a space, and then you would put the next heterotroph, which would be the secondary consumer. Then you leave a space, and then you put the next heterotroph that would eat the secondary consumer, and that is called the tertiary consumer. Then, in the spaces you need to add arrows that point from the food to the eater. It's a very simple process, and then you are done.
I'm going to show you two examples of the same food chain that you should base your project off of. In the food chain of the owl, for this example, it starts with the plant, which is the producer, and then it goes to the insect, which is the consumer, and then it goes to the mouse, which is a consumer, and then it goes to the owl, which is a consumer. I like this example right here more because it specifies which is the primary, secondary, and tertiary consumer. You don't need to add the sun and energy,